On an ordinary afternoon, a successful man, the owner of a supermarket chain, is shopping anonymously in one of his stores. There he witnesses a moving scene, a mother trying to explain to her son that she can't buy a simple box of cookies. Touched by the woman's dignity and the boy's sadness, he decides to make a gesture of generosity that will forever change the destiny of all three. If this story caught your interest, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching from. Let's get into it. I promise this will be the best story you'll hear in your life. The afternoon slowly faded over New York City, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink that could barely pierce the smog of America's largest metropolis. In the Astoria neighborhood of Queens, nestled between residential buildings and small businesses, a bustling supermarket was welcoming its last customers of the day. It was one of those chain establishments with wide aisles, bright lighting, and impeccably organized shelves. Nothing there suggested that on that ordinary Tuesday afternoon, three lives were about to intersect in a way that would forever change the course of their destinies. Ryan August Miller was 38 years old and the owner of one of the largest supermarket chains in the New York tri-state area. The son of Italian immigrants who came to America in the 70s to try their luck, he grew up watching his father wake up at 5 in the morning to open the family's small grocery store on the Lower East Side. He learned from a young age the value of hard work, business honesty, and the importance of treating every customer well. When his father passed away, he left him not just the small grocery store, but a philosophy of life that Ryan never forgot. Over 15 years of immense sweat and sacrifice, he transformed that small establishment into a chain of 23 supermarkets spread across the greater New York City area. But professional success didn't bring the happiness Ryan had imagined. His 10-year marriage had ended 2 years prior when his wife, Melissa, decided she preferred the glamorous life of Miami with an American entrepreneur she met on a business trip. They had no children, and Ryan threw himself into work as a way to forget the loneliness that filled his empty apartment on the Upper East Side. Even surrounded by employees, suppliers, and business partners, he felt profoundly alone. There was something missing in his life, a void that all the money in the world couldn't fill. That afternoon, Ryan decided to do something he rarely did. He put on a pair of faded jeans, a simple white cotton shirt, and a Yankees cap he'd gotten on a trip. He wanted to see if his chain stores were really running well, if the employees treated customers with respect, if the products were well displayed. He liked to make these surprise visits incognito, without telling anyone, just observing and feeling the atmosphere of the place. He chose the Astoria location because it was one of the oldest in the chain, and he had a special affection for it. Upon entering the supermarket, Ryan felt the cold air conditioning against the August heat that punished the city. He grabbed a cart and began to walk through the aisles, observing everything with the critical eye of an owner, but also with the curiosity of a regular customer. He stopped in the produce section to check the quality of the products, passed by the butcher and bakery, and analyzed the layout of the promotions. Everything seemed to be running perfectly. The employees were courteous, the shelves were stocked, the floor was clean and shiny. It was when he reached the cookie and snack aisle that Ryan witnessed a scene that would completely change his life. In the middle of the aisle, crouched down to a child's eye level, was a young woman speaking softly to a little boy. Ryan stopped a few feet behind them, pretending to compare the prices of some brands of sandwich cookies, but his attention was completely focused on that mother and son. The woman must have been around 29. She wore a simple olive green dress, the kind that cost $20 in a discount clothing store, already a bit faded by time and many washes. Her brown hair was pulled back into a low, messy ponytail, as if she didn't have time to fix herself up properly before leaving the house. She wore no makeup, but her fair skin had a natural beauty that needed no embellishment. What caught Ryan's attention the most were her eyes. Even from a distance, he could see they were deep brown, filled with a mixture of exhaustion and determination, of sadness and strength all at once. The boy beside her was small for his 6 years. He had straight black hair that fell over his forehead, big round eyes that seemed to hold all the innocence in the world, and he wore a New York Yankees t-shirt that was too big for his small frame. In his little hands, he held with great care a box of Teddy Grahams. It was one of those simple boxes that cost less than $3, but to that boy, it seemed to be the most valuable treasure in the universe. Ryan pretended to be interested in the shelf of saltine crackers, but his ears were tuned to the conversation between mother and son. The woman's voice was low, almost a whisper, but he could catch a few words. She was explaining to the boy, with infinite patience and evident pain in her voice, that they couldn't get the cookies that day. Ryan saw the boy's little face contort, trying to understand, trying not to cry. The boy looked at the box in his hands as if he were holding something he would soon have to abandon, caressed the packaging with his little fingers, and then, with a gentleness that broke Ryan's heart, placed the box back on the shelf. But before completely letting go of the cookies, the boy turned to his mother and said something Ryan couldn't hear. The woman lowered her head, and Ryan saw her shoulders tremble slightly. She was crying, trying to hide her tears from her son. After a few seconds, she lifted her face, quickly wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, and smiled at the boy, a sad but love-filled smile. She took his little hand and began to walk down the aisle toward the checkout, pushing a cart that held only a few items, the most basic, the bare necessities for survival. Ryan stood there, holding a random box of cookies he didn't even know what it was, feeling something strange happen inside him. It was as if an invisible hand had squeezed his heart tightly. That simple and yet devastating scene had awakened an emotion in him he hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't exactly pity. It was something deeper, a mix of admiration for that mother's dignity, sadness for the harsh reality they lived, and an inexplicable desire to do something, anything to change that situation. He looked at the box of cookies the boy had returned to the shelf and felt a lump in his throat. It was so little, so cheap, but for that family, it was an unattainable luxury. Ryan thought of all the times he himself bought frivolous things without even thinking about the price, how he wasted money on expensive dinners, designer clothes, things that made no difference in his life. And here was a child who just wanted a simple box of cookies and couldn't have it. Making a quick decision, Ryan grabbed the box of cookies from the shelf and started to follow the woman and the boy through the supermarket aisles. He kept a safe distance, watching what they picked up. He saw the woman look at the prices of everything carefully, compare brands, always choosing the cheapest options. She picked up a small bag of rice, another of beans, some eggs, a quart of milk, laundry detergent, dish soap. Basic survival products, nothing beyond the absolutely necessary. Ryan began to discreetly pick up other products and put them in his own cart, but always paying attention to what that family really needed. He got a larger bag of rice, more beans, pasta, oil, sugar, salt, coffee. Then he went to the deli section and got ham, cheese, cream cheese. He passed by the bakery and got fresh rolls. He went to the meat section and chose chicken, ground beef, sausage. He filled the cart with cleaning supplies, toilet paper, soap, shampoo, toothpaste. When the woman and the boy reached the checkout, Ryan stood in the next line, watching. She began to place her few items on the conveyor belt, and the cashier scanned each item with the mechanical speed of someone who does it 1,000 times a day. Ryan saw the woman open an old worn-out wallet, take out a few crumpled bills and some coins, and pay the bill. When the change came back, she put every cent away carefully, like someone who knows that's all they have. It was at that moment that Ryan worked up the courage and approached. He had mentally rehearsed several ways to handle the situation, but when he got close to them, all the words seemed to flee his mind. The woman was picking up her bags when he finally spoke. "Excuse me, sorry to bother you. I noticed you forgot something important on the shelf." The woman turned, startled, looking at Ryan with suspicion. She squeezed her son's hand tighter and took a half-step back, in a defensive posture. Ryan realized he had scared her and quickly tried to fix the situation. He showed her the box of cookies he had in his hand, the very one the boy had put back on the shelf. "I saw your son put this back, and I thought maybe you'd forgotten it. Kids love cookies, right? My name is Ryan by the way, Ryan Miller." The woman looked at the cookies, then at Ryan, and her eyes filled with restrained tears. She pressed her lips together, took a deep breath, and shook her head, trying to maintain her composure. "Thank you, sir, but no. We didn't forget. It's just that we can't get it today, but thank you for your kindness." She started to turn to leave, but the boy tugged on the sleeve of her dress and whispered something in her ear. Ryan saw the woman bend down to listen to her son, and then raise her eyes to him again. There was a battle going on inside her, he could see. Pride fighting against need, dignity fighting against the desire to bring her son a little joy. Ryan took another step forward, but kept a respectful distance. He spoke in the softest voice he could manage, trying to sound sincere and not condescending. "Please don't see this as charity. I just wanted to do something nice today. You know how it is. Sometimes you see a kid and remember your own childhood. Let me pay for these cookies for your son, that's all. It's no big deal." The boy looked at his mother with those big, hopeful eyes, and Ryan saw the woman falter. She looked at her son, then at Ryan, and finally, with a choked voice, she nodded. Ryan felt a wave of relief and happiness. He quickly paid for the cookies and handed the box into the boy's little hands, who clutched it to his chest as if it were the most precious gift in the world. "Thank you so much, sir," the woman said, and Ryan could see that those 2 words cost her a lot to say. "My name is Lauren Fisher, and this is my son, Michael." Michael looked at Ryan and gave a shy but radiant smile, showing his small white teeth. "It's a pleasure to meet you," Ryan replied, feeling a strange emotion growing inside him. "And look, I know this might seem weird, but I have more shopping to do. Are you guys done, or is there anything else you need?" Lauren looked at him with suspicion again. "We're done, sir. We have to go now. Michael still has to do his homework." Ryan nodded, but something inside him didn't want to let this opportunity slip away. There was something about this woman that intrigued him, that drew him in a way he couldn't explain. It wasn't just her simple, natural beauty, but the strength she showed, the dignity with which she carried her poverty, the unconditional love she had for her son. It was a combination that touched Ryan in a very deep place in his soul. "Okay then," he said, trying not to sound too pushy. "But before you go, let me ask you a question. Do you live around here?" Lauren hesitated, but the boy answered before she could. "We live in Jackson Heights, sir, near the subway. It's far from here. We came because the rice was on sale here." Ryan looked at the boy and smiled. Michael was a smart kid, the kind who observes everything and speaks without fear. Lauren blushed a little, obviously not wanting the stranger to know so much about their lives, but Ryan saw it as an opportunity. "Jackson Heights is pretty far. Did you come by bus or the subway?" "We came by subway," the boy answered again, "but now we're taking the bus because the subway is too crowded at this time." Ryan looked at the heavy bags Lauren was carrying and made an impulsive decision. "Look, I have my car here. If you want, I can give you a ride to Jackson Heights. It's no trouble. I was heading that way anyway." "No, sir," Lauren replied immediately, her voice sounding firm for the first time. "We can't accept. You've already been very kind to us. We'll take the bus. Thank you very much for the offer." "But Mom," Michael started to say, but Lauren cut him off with a look. Michael fell silent, understanding he shouldn't insist. Ryan saw the disappointment on the boy's face and felt bad. He didn't want to cause trouble between mother and son, but he also couldn't just let them leave like that. "All right, I understand. But at least let me pay for an Uber for you. With those heavy bags, it'll be tough to take the bus and subway. Please, it's the least I can do." Lauren looked at him for a long moment, as if trying to decipher his intentions. Ryan held her gaze, trying to convey sincerity. Finally, she sighed and agreed. "Okay, if you insist. But just this, okay? We don't want to bother you anymore." Ryan took his phone out of his pocket and called an Uber. While they waited for the car to arrive, they stood there near the supermarket exit in a somewhat uncomfortable silence. Michael was munching on a cookie he had asked his mom to open, and he looked at Ryan with those curious child's eyes. Lauren fidgeted nervously with the bags, clearly uncomfortable with the whole situation. It was the boy who broke the silence. "You're very nice, sir. My mom always says there are good people in the world, but I'd never seen one for real. You're the first." Ryan felt a pang in his chest at those innocent and meaningful words. He crouched down to the boy's level and replied, "I'm the lucky one to have met you two. You reminded me of important things I had forgotten." "What things, sir?" Michael asked with the natural curiosity of children. Ryan looked at Lauren, who was watching the interaction with an unreadable expression, and then turned his eyes back to the boy. You reminded me that the most important things in life aren't the ones we buy, they're the people we love and who love us back. Michael smiled at him, that pure, sincere smile that only children can give. Are you lonely, sir? Do you not have anyone who loves you? The question caught Ryan off guard. He felt a stab of pain in his chest, but tried not to let it show. I have my family, my brother, my mom, but yes, I live alone. Then you're just like us, Michael said matter-of-factly. It's just me and my mom, too. But it's okay because we love each other a lot. My mom is the best mom in the whole world. Lauren bent down and hugged her son, hiding, her face in his hair. Ryan saw her shoulders tremble again and realized she was fighting not to cry in front of him. That love between mother and son was so intense, so pure, that Ryan felt a good kind of envy. He had everything money could buy, but he didn't have what those two had. An unbreakable bond, unconditional love, a strength that came from within and didn't depend on material possessions. Ryan's phone buzzed, signaling that the Uber was arriving. He looked at the screen and then at Lauren. The car's here, a silver Corolla, it'll pull up, right in front. Lauren let go of Michael and stood up, smoothing her wrinkled dress. She looked at Ryan and for the first time she offered a smile, small but genuine. Thank you so much, sir. Really. You didn't have to do any of this. God will reward you for your kindness. Ryan felt that this was the moment of goodbye, but something inside him didn't want to let them go just like that. He had to do something more, had to find a way to truly help this family, not just with one-off acts of charity. An idea began to form in his mind. Lauren, he called before she could turn to leave, can I ask you a question? Do you work? Do you have a job right now? The question seemed to put her on the defensive again. She looked at him with that suspicion returning to her eyes. Why do you want to know? Ryan held up his hands in a peaceful gesture. Easy. It's nothing bad. I was just thinking, I have a company, and we're always looking for good people to work for us. Reliable, hard-working, honest people. And I got a very good impression of you. You seem to be exactly the kind of person I'm looking for. Lauren was silent for a few seconds, processing what she had just heard. Then she shook her head. Sir, I don't know what you saw in me to think that. I only have a high school diploma. I don't have experience in an office or anything like that. I worked at a diner until 3 months ago, but the owner closed the business. Since then, I've been looking for a job but can't find anything. So thank you for the offer. But I think you're mistaken. Ryan shook his head. No, I'm not mistaken. I'm not offering a management position or anything like that. But I'm sure you're a person of value, and valuable people are rare. Look, let me give you my card. Think about what I said. If you want an opportunity, call me. We can talk more about it. He took a card from his wallet and held it out to Lauren. She looked at the card, but made no move to take it. Ryan saw her resistance and decided not to insist. He placed the card on top of one of the bags she was carrying. The silver Corolla had just pulled up in front of the supermarket. Take care, Lauren. You too, Michael. Look after each other. And Lauren, please, think about what I said. Lauren nodded without saying anything, picked up the bags and took her son's hand. Michael waved to Ryan before getting into the car. Ryan stood there in front of the supermarket, watching the Uber pull away into the heavy Astoria traffic. He watched until the car disappeared around the corner. And even after that, he remained there, standing, thinking about everything that had just happened. Something had changed inside him that afternoon. It was as if a door that had been locked for a long time had been opened. Ryan went back into the supermarket, grabbed his cart still full of groceries he had picked out for Lauren and Michael, and went to the checkout. He paid for everything, asked for it to be bagged well, and left the bags in his car, a discreet black BMW parked in the underground garage. As he drove back to his apartment on the Upper East Side, Ryan couldn't get the image of that boy holding the cookies, and the mother fighting back tears out of his head. He thought about how many families like that existed in New York, how many mothers worked hard to provide the bare minimum for their children, how many kids had to learn the meaning of the word scarcity from a young age. When he got home, He went up to his apartment on the 15th floor, walked in, and tossed his keys on the entryway table. The apartment was large, modern, decorated by a famous interior designer. It had 3 bedroom suites, a huge living room with a double-height ceiling, an open-plan kitchen equipped with state-of-the-art appliances, and 2 parking spaces in the garage. Everything was beautiful, everything was expensive, everything was empty. Ryan went out to the balcony and looked at the city below. The lights were beginning to come on, forming that chaotic mosaic that was New York at night. Millions of people living their lives, each with their struggles, their dreams, their pains. And somewhere in Jackson Heights, probably in a small apartment or a simple house, Lauren was making dinner for Michael while he did his homework, the 2 of them living with so little but having so much more than he did. Ryan wondered if Lauren would call him, if she would consider the job offer, or if she would throw away the card, thinking he was just another rich guy pitying the poor. He hoped she would call, not just because he wanted to help her, but because he had felt something when he looked into her eyes. A connection, a spark, something he hadn't felt in a long time. It was too soon to understand what it was, but Ryan knew it wasn't indifference. He went to the kitchen and opened one of the bags he had bought. He took out the Teddy Grahams, the same ones Michael had wanted so badly, and stared at the box. It was so simple, so cheap, but it had meant so much to that boy. Ryan opened the box and ate a cookie. It was sweet, simple, nothing special, but at that moment to him, it tasted like the hope that maybe, just maybe, his life was about to find a new meaning. 3 days had passed since the encounter at the supermarket, and Ryan couldn't stop thinking about Lauren and Michael. Every night before bed, he'd find himself wondering if they were okay, if they had enough to eat, if the boy was happy. During business meetings, his mind would wander back to that afternoon in Astoria. He checked his phone every half hour, waiting for a call that stubbornly refused to come. On Friday morning, Ryan was in his office in Midtown Manhattan on the 22nd floor of a commercial building on Park Avenue. The office was spacious, with a privileged view of the city, but at that moment, he barely looked outside. He was reviewing sales spreadsheets when his secretary, Donna, an efficient woman, in her 40s who had worked with him for over 10 years, knocked on the door. "Ryan, there's a call for you on line 3, a woman named Lauren. She didn't want to give her last name, but she said you gave her your card and asked her to call." Ryan felt his heart leap in his chest. He tried not to show too much enthusiasm in front of Donna, but he knew his eyes had lit up. "Put her through, Donna, thanks." As soon as Donna left and closed the door, Ryan answered the phone with an anxiety he hadn't felt in years. "Hello, Lauren?" On the other end of the line, a hesitant voice replied, "Hi, Mr. Miller, it's Lauren. We met at the supermarket on Tuesday. You gave me your card." Yes, I remember well. I'm so glad you called. I was hoping you would. How are you? And Michael?" "We're fine, thank you. Look, I called because I was thinking about what you said, about the job. I wanted to know if you were serious, or if you were just being polite, you know." Ryan stood up from his chair and went to the window, looking at the city below. "Lauren, I was very serious. I don't make empty offers. If I said I have an opportunity for you, it's because I do." There was a silence on the other end of the line, and Ryan could almost feel the internal struggle happening within her. When Lauren spoke again, her voice was lower, almost a whisper. "Mr. Miller, I need to be honest with you. I don't have experience with office work. I've worked my whole life in diners, restaurants, places like that. I know how to make sandwiches, serve customers, clean, organize, but with computers I only know the basics, so I didn't want you to have the wrong expectations about me." Ryan smiled, even though he knew she couldn't see him. "Lauren, I understand your concerns, but I'm not looking for someone with a college degree or years of office experience. I'm looking for someone reliable, hardworking, and honest. And I saw all of that in you that afternoon. Do you have those qualities?" She hesitated before answering. "I think so. I've always been a hard worker. Never missed a day of work without a good reason. Never stole anything from anyone. I've always given my best in everything I've done." "Then you have exactly what I need. Look, let me explain it better. I have a supermarket chain, and I need someone to work in the administrative area of one of the stores. It's nothing too complicated. You'll learn on the job. There will be training, there will be people to help you. What matters is that you're willing to learn and dedicate yourself. Are you up for it?" Lauren was silent again, and Ryan could hear her rapid breathing over the phone. "Mr. Miller, I don't know what to say. This would be a blessing for me and Michael. But I'm afraid I won't be able to handle it, that I'll disappoint you." "You won't disappoint me. I trust you. Look, how about we meet on Monday to talk it over? You can come to my office on Park Avenue. Or if you prefer, we can meet somewhere closer to where you live. Park Avenue is fine, I can get there. What time? Does 9 in the morning work for you? And you can bring Michael if you don't have anyone to watch him. He has school in the morning, but I'll arrange for someone to pick him up afterward. 9 o'clock is fine, thank you so much, Mr. Miller. You have no idea how much this means to me." "I think I do, Lauren. And please, call me Ryan, without the Mr. We're going to be working together, so let's be colleagues. Let me give you the exact address." After giving her all the information, Ryan hung up the phone and stood there in front of the window, feeling a genuine joy growing inside him. It was a strange, almost forgotten sensation. How long had it been since he'd felt truly excited about something? How long had it been since he'd woken up thinking about something other than numbers, sales, targets? The weekend passed slowly for Ryan. On Saturday, he visited his mother, Matilda, who lived in a condo in Queens. She was a 68-year-old woman, a widow for 5 years, Italian by birth but an American at heart. She made meatballs that were famous among her friends and spent her days tending to the plants on her balcony and watching her favorite soap operas. "My son, you look different today," she said as she served lunch. "Did something happen?" Ryan smiled and told his mother about the encounter at the supermarket and about Lauren. Matilda listened attentively, nodding her head from time to time. When he finished, she was silent for a moment, thoughtful. "You like this girl, don't you?" she said, getting straight to the point as she always did. Ryan felt his face flush. "Mom, it's not like that. I'm just trying to help someone who needs it." Matilda smiled that way. Only mothers can smile when they notice something their children haven't yet realized. "All right, my son, if you say so, but be careful, you hear? Helping is good, but don't confuse things. She's a person going through a hard time. You're a rich man. That can complicate everything." Ryan knew his mother was right, but something inside him insisted that this was different. It wasn't just compassion or pity. It was something more, something he couldn't yet name. On Monday morning, Ryan arrived at the office at 8:30. He asked Donna to prepare some coffee and set up the conference room. At 9 o'clock sharp, the receptionist informed him that a Lauren Fisher was waiting for him. Ryan asked for her to be sent up. When Lauren entered the room, Ryan was struck by the transformation. She was different from the woman he had seen in the supermarket. She wore dark jeans, a simple but well-ironed white blouse, and her hair was tied back in a bun. She was clearly nervous, fidgeting with her hands and looking at everything with the wide eyes of someone not used to corporate environments. "Welcome, Lauren. Make yourself comfortable. Sit here. Would you like some coffee? Some water?" "A glass of water, please," she said softly. Ryan poured the water and sat next to her, not behind the desk, as he would in a formal meeting. He wanted to make her feel comfortable, not intimidated. "So, Lauren, have you thought carefully about my proposal? Do you have any questions you want to ask?" Lauren took a sip of water and a deep breath before speaking. "Ryan, I'm going to be honest with you. I really need this job. I haven't worked in 3 months. I have a little bit of money saved up and it's running out. I pay $400 a month for rent on a small room in Jackson Heights. It's small, but it's clean and safe. Michael is in the public school near our place. I get some government assistance, but it's not enough. If I don't find a job soon, I'll have to go back to Georgia, to my mother's house. And I don't want that." Ryan listened attentively. "Why don't you want to go back to Georgia?" Lauren looked down at her hands. "Because it's worse there. My mom lives on a small farm near Savannah. There are no opportunities there at all. I came to New York 7 years ago precisely to try for a better life. I don't want to give up now. I want Michael to have chances I never had, and he has them here in New York." "And Michael's father? if you don't mind me asking. Lauren tensed for a moment. His father isn't part of our lives. Never has been. When I found out I was pregnant, he disappeared. I've raised Michael alone since he was born. It's just me and him. Ryan nodded, understanding. And you don't have anyone else here in New York? Any family, friends? I have a few friends I met at work. Joanna, who used to live in my building, helps watch. Michael sometimes, but that's it. My only family is back in Georgia. Ryan was impressed by the woman's strength. She had come from Georgia alone, pregnant, without support from the child's father, and had built a life in New York. It wasn't an easy life, but it was a dignified one. She worked, raised her son, held her head high. She was exactly the kind of person he admired. Okay, Lauren, then let me explain exactly what your job would be. I'm going to place you at the Astoria location, the same one where we met. You'll work in the old administrative department, assisting the manager, Sylvia. It will be things like organizing documents, checking invoices, entering data into the computer. Things you'll learn by doing. The hours would be from 9 in the morning to 6 in the evening, Monday to Friday. On Saturdays, you'll work a half day until noon. The starting salary would be $2,000 a month plus benefits, a transportation card, and a meal allowance. Lauren's eyes widened. $2,000. But that's more than I was making at the diner, are you sure? I'm sure, and if you do well, we'll review that amount in 3 months. What do you think? Lauren started to cry. They were silent tears that streamed down her face without her making any effort to hold them back. She covered her face with her hands, and her shoulders began to shake. Ryan was at a loss for a moment, but then he stood up, got a box of tissues, and placed it next to her on the table. I'm sorry, she said between sobs. It's just that I can't believe this is happening. It feels like a dream. These last 3 months have been the hardest of my life. I've gone hungry so Michael wouldn't have to. I was already thinking about giving up on everything, and then, out of nowhere, an angel appears in my life. Ryan felt a lump in his throat. I'm no angel, Lauren. I'm just a man who recognized a person of value when he saw one. You deserve this opportunity, and I'm sure you'll do a great job. Lauren wiped her tears and looked at him with those brown eyes full of gratitude and determination. I promise you won't regret this. I will work so hard. I will give my best every single day. I will prove that you weren't wrong to trust me. I know you will. Now, can you start tomorrow, or do you need a few days to get organized? I can start tomorrow. I just need to arrange with Joanna to pick Michael up from school. But I can manage. Great. Then tomorrow at 9, report to the Astoria store. Ask for Sylvia, the manager. I'll let her know you're coming. And Lauren, one important thing. No one there needs to know how we met. That stays between you and me, okay? I don't want people treating you differently or gossiping. You'll be starting there just like any other new employee. Lauren nodded. Of course, I won't say a word to anyone. After Lauren left, Ryan remained alone in his office for a long time, looking out the window. He knew he had done the right thing by giving her this opportunity, but he also knew he had to be careful. His mother was right. The situation was delicate. He was the owner of the company. She was an employee. He was rich. She was poor. Any involvement between them would be complicated and potentially problematic. But even knowing this, Ryan couldn't deny that he felt something for Lauren. It was an attraction that went beyond the physical. It was admiration for her strength, her character, the way she loved her son. It was an emotional connection he hadn't expected to feel. And the more he tried to suppress these feelings, the more they insisted on appearing. In the following weeks, Ryan found himself making excuses to visit the Astoria store. He told himself he was just checking to see if Lauren was adapting well, but deep down he knew it was more than that. He wanted to see her, to know how she was doing, to be sure he had made the right decision, and every time he saw her, his certainty grew. Lauren was an exceptional employee. She always arrived 15 minutes early, never took her eyes off her work, learned quickly, and never complained about anything. Sylvia, the manager, told Ryan that Lauren was the best hire the store had made in years. But it wasn't just Lauren's professionalism that impressed Ryan. It was the way she interacted with the other employees, always polite, always helpful. It was the way she spoke of her son with such pride and love. It was the light in her eyes when she received her first paycheck and told Sylvia, not knowing Ryan was listening, that she could finally buy Michael a new pair of sneakers. One day, 4 weeks after Lauren had started working, Ryan was at the store in a meeting with the managers when he saw a scene through the office window that made him stop mid-sentence. Lauren was in the employee break area, sitting on a bench, and next to her was Michael in his school uniform. It was Saturday and she had worked until noon. She must have picked up her son and brought him to the store while she finished something up. The boy was showing his mother a notebook, probably his homework, and she was looking at it with such attention, with such interest, that Ryan felt his heart tighten. He quickly excused himself from the meeting, saying he had to handle something urgent, and left the room. When he reached the break area, Michael was the first to see him. "Uncle Ryan!" the boy shouted and ran toward him. Ryan crouched down, and the boy threw himself into his arms in a tight hug. That Uncle Ryan caught him completely off guard, but at the same time it filled his heart with a joy he didn't know was possible. "Hey, champ, how are you? It's been a while since we've seen each other." "I'm good, Uncle Ryan. Look, I got an A on my math test. Want to see?" Michael proudly showed him the notebook with the test. Ryan examined it carefully, praised the boy's work, and then looked at Lauren, who had stood up and was standing there with a hard-to-read expression. There was surprise, joy, but also a certain embarrassment. "Hi, Ryan. I'm sorry I brought Michael here. It's just that Joanna couldn't pick him up today and I had no one to leave him with." "Don't worry about it, Lauren. No problem at all. Michael is always welcome here. And congratulations on the A, champ. You're very smart." "It's my mom who helps me study," Michael said with pride. "She's really good at math." Ryan smiled at Lauren, who blushed. The three of them stood there talking in the break area for a few minutes, with Michael telling stories from school and Lauren trying to get her son to speak, more quietly so as not to bother anyone. Ryan was so immersed in that moment, so happy to be there with them, that he didn't even notice when Sylvia approached. "Ryan, sorry to interrupt, but the people in the meeting are waiting for you to come back." Reality hit Ryan like a bucket of cold water. He was standing there chatting with an employee and her son while leaving a room full of managers waiting. That wasn't professional. That could generate gossip. "Oh, right, of course, I'm on my way back." He turned to Michael. "It was great seeing you, champ. Keep studying like that and you'll go far. And Lauren, if you need anything, just talk to Sylvia, okay?" "I will. Thanks, Ryan." Ryan returned to the meeting room, but his mind was no longer there. It was with Lauren and Michael in the break area, in that simple but perfect moment. And it was in that instant that he realized something that both scared him and filled him with hope. He was falling in love with Lauren. It was no longer just admiration or attraction. It was love. A love that was growing inside him, inevitable and frightening. But he knew he couldn't show it. Not yet. Not while Lauren was his employee. Not while she depended on him financially. It would be unfair, unethical, wrong. He had to wait. He had to let Lauren get settled, gain confidence, feel secure in her new life. And then maybe he could confess what he felt. Maybe. 2 months had passed since Lauren started working at Ryan's supermarket chain, and her life had completely changed. She no longer woke up with that gnawing anxiety of not knowing how she would pay the bills at the end of the month. Michael was happier, healthier, had new clothes and all his school supplies. The small room they rented in Jackson Heights was still small, but now there was food in the fridge, toys on the floor, and life within its walls. But while Lauren's financial situation improved, her emotional life became increasingly complicated. It was impossible not to notice the way Ryan looked at her. On the rare occasions he appeared at the store, his eyes sought her out immediately. He would invent reasons to talk to her, always maintaining a professional distance, but Lauren felt the tension in the air, that electricity that exists between two people who feel something for each other but cannot or should not express it. And the worst part was that Lauren knew she was feeling the same way. Every time she saw Ryan walk into the store, her heart would race. She would get nervous, stammer, drop things. The other employees started to notice and make comments, always in a joking manner, but Lauren was mortified. She couldn't afford to get involved with her boss. It would be the end of everything she had achieved. One Thursday afternoon, Sylvia called Lauren into her office. Lauren entered worriedly, thinking she might have done something wrong. But Sylvia had a smile on her face. "Have a seat, Lauren. I have some good news for you. Ryan called me this morning and asked me to give you a raise. Starting next month, you'll be making $2,500. He said you're doing an exceptional job and deserve to be recognized." Lauren was speechless. An extra $500 was a huge difference in her budget. It meant she could start a savings account, buy a used wardrobe for her and Michael's clothes, and pay for a computer course to improve her skills. It was more than she had ever dreamed of. "I don't know what to say. This is so wonderful. I'll keep working hard to deserve this trust." Sylvia smiled, but then turned serious. "Can I give you some advice, Lauren?" "Woman to woman?" Lauren nodded, curious and a little apprehensive. "Of course. Be careful. I'm not blind. I see the way you and Ryan look at each other. And look, I'm not judging. Ryan is a good, honest, polite man. Any woman would be lucky to have him. But you need to understand the delicate position you're both in. He's the owner of the company. You're an employee. If something happens between you, there will be people who say you're taking advantage, that you seduced him to get benefits. And there will be people who say he's abusing his position. You could both get very hurt by this." Lauren felt her face flush. "There's nothing going on between me and Ryan. He just gave me a job. That's all." Sylvia shook her head. "I know there's nothing going on now, but I see that there could be, and I'm just warning you to think carefully before you take any steps. Think about Michael, too. You can't risk losing this job over a crush." Lauren left Sylvia's office with a heavy heart. She knew the manager was right about everything, but how could she control her heart? How could she pretend not to feel what she felt? How could she look at Ryan and not feel that tightness in her chest, that desire to know him better, to spend more time with him, to discover what lay behind that successful but lonely man? That night at home, after putting Michael to bed, Lauren sat on her bed, thinking about everything. She picked up her phone and almost called Ryan. She wanted to hear his voice, to thank him for the raise, to simply talk, but she didn't have the courage. Instead, she sent a short, formal text message. "Good evening, Ryan. Sylvia told me about the raise. Thank you so much for your confidence in me. I will continue to do my best." The reply came almost immediately. "You deserve it, Lauren. Your work is impeccable. Have a good night, and give Michael a hug for me." Lauren stared at the message for a long time. Give Michael a hug for me. It was so simple, but it meant so much. Ryan remembered her son. He cared about him. It wasn't just about work and money. It was about people, about real connections. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Ryan was sitting alone in his Upper East Side apartment, looking at the same message he had just sent. He had wanted to write so much more. He wanted to say that he thought about her every day. He wanted to confess that he was in love. But he couldn't. He shouldn't. Not yet. The phone. Shang. It was Melissa, his ex-wife. Ryan hesitated before answering, but in the end he took the call. "Hi, Ryan, how are you?" Her voice was overly sweet, forced. "I'm fine, Melissa. And you? What do you want?" Straight to the point, as always. "Look, I'm in New York. I got in yesterday. I'm staying at the Plaza. I wanted to see you. We need to talk." Ryan sighed. "Melissa, we have nothing to talk about. Our divorce was finalized a year ago. You made your choices. I've moved on with my life. I know, but I've missed... Oh. But I've... You, Ryan. I made a mistake. Gary and I broke up. That whole thing was a complete mistake. I wanted to ask for a chance for us to start over." Ryan couldn't believe what he was hearing. Melissa had destroyed him. She had cheated on him, abandoned him, chosen another man. And now she was coming back asking for a second chance just because her new relationship hadn't worked out. "Melissa, I have no interest in starting anything over with you. I'm sorry things didn't work out with Gary, but that's not my problem. I wish you happiness, but far away from me. Ryan, please, I still love you. I messed up, but I realized you're the man of my life. Just give me one chance to prove it to you." "No, Melissa. My answer is no. I have to go now. Take care." Ryan hung up the phone and threw it on the couch. He felt nothing for Melissa. Not anger, not love, not nostalgia. It was as if that phase of his life had been completely erased, and he knew exactly why. Because his heart already belonged to someone else. Someone he couldn't have, but who occupied all his thoughts. The days turned into weeks, and Ryan began to feel he couldn't take the situation anymore. He needed to talk to Lauren, needed to know if she felt the same way he did. But every time he was about to work up the courage, he remembered his mother's words, the complications it could bring, the risk of putting Lauren in a difficult position. That's when an unexpected opportunity arose. The company was organizing a holiday party for all employees. It would be at a club in Westchester County with a barbecue, music, and activities for the kids. Employees could bring their families. Ryan knew Lauren would be there with Michael, and he thought it would be the perfect moment to talk to her more informally, away from the work environment. On the day of the party, a sunny Saturday in November, Ryan arrived at the club around 11 in the morning. The place was already full of employees and their families. Kids were running everywhere, grills were smoking, music was playing. Ryan greeted everyone, chatted with the managers, and thanked the employees for their work throughout the year. But his eyes were searching for only one person. He found her sitting at a table under a tree, watching Michael play on the playground with other children. She wore a simple cotton dress with a floral print, her hair loose and falling over her shoulders, and she had a smile on her face as she watched her son have fun. Ryan stood for a moment just looking at her, thinking how someone could be so beautiful without even trying. He approached slowly. "May I sit?" Lauren was startled by his voice and turned quickly. "Of course, please do," she said, making room at the table. Ryan sat next, to her keeping a respectful distance. "Michael's having a good time." He's loving it. He's already made 3 new friends. And he's eaten so much I'm afraid he's going to get sick." They both laughed and sat in silence for a few moments, just watching the children play. It was a comfortable silence, but also charged with tension. "Lauren, I wanted to tell you something," Ryan began, but was interrupted by a woman's voice. "Ryan, darling, what a surprise to find you here." Ryan turned and felt his stomach sink. It was Melissa. She was there at the club, wearing a short dress and high heels completely inappropriate for a casual party. She had heavy makeup on and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Melissa, what are you doing here?" "I came to see you. You won't answer my calls, so I decided to come in person. We need to talk, Ryan. It's important." Lauren looked from Ryan to Melissa, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. She started to get up. "Excuse me, I'm going to check on Michael." "You don't have to go, Lauren," Ryan said, lightly touching her arm. Melissa was just leaving. Melissa looked at Lauren with that look women give each other when they sense a threat. "Oh, you must be one of Ryan's employees. How cute. You have a son, don't you? It must be hard to work and take care of a child alone." Melissa's tone was sweet, but laced with venom. Lauren felt the insinuation, the judgment disguised as concern. She lifted her chin and replied with dignity, "It is hard, but I manage. I'm a mother and a worker, and I'm very proud of both." "Melissa, you need to leave." "Now," Ryan said, his voice firm and irritated. "You were not invited to this event. You're trespassing on my company's private property." "Ryan, please, I just want to talk 5 minutes. That's all I ask." Ryan stood up and took Melissa by the arm, pulling her away from the table. Lauren sat there, feeling small and out of place. She looked around and saw some employees watching the scene, whispering among themselves. She knew what they were thinking, that she was just another employee, that this elegant, beautiful woman was someone important in Ryan's life. And her? She was a nobody. Lauren stood up and went to get Michael from the playground. "Let's go, honey." "But Mom, I'm playing. I don't want to go yet." "We have to go. Come on." She grabbed her bag and started walking toward the club's exit, pulling Michael by the hand. The boy complained, not understanding why they had to leave so early. Lauren felt tears burning her eyes but refused to cry there, in front of everyone. "Lauren, wait!" It was Ryan running after her. She didn't want to stop, but he caught up to her before she reached the gate. "Please don't go. Let me explain." You don't need to explain anything. Ryan, she's your wife, ex-wife, whatever. It's none of my business. I'm just your employee. Thank you for the job, for the raise, for everything. But I think it's best if we keep our distance. Lauren, no. You don't understand. Melissa is my past. A past I want nothing to do with. I sent her away. I made it clear I have no interest in her. Lauren looked at him with tear-filled eyes. Ryan, you're my boss. You gave me a job when I needed it most. I'm eternally grateful for that. But I can't keep feeding hopes for something. That can't happen. You're rich, successful, you live in a fancy apartment on the Upper East Side. I'm poor, I live in a tiny room in Jackson Heights. I have a son to raise alone. We're from different worlds. That woman over there, as much as you may not like her, she's part of your world, I'm not. Ryan felt as if he'd been punched in the gut. Lauren, you're wrong, completely wrong. I don't care about money or a fancy apartment or any of that. I care about character, about honesty, about true love. And you have all of that. Melissa has money, but she has none of what really matters. Uncle Ryan, why are you making my mommy cry? They both looked down and saw Michael holding his mother's hand, his own little eyes filled with tears. The sight of that crying boy was too much for Ryan. He knelt down to Michael's level. I'm sorry, champ, I didn't mean to make your mom cry. I was just trying to explain something to her. Michael looked at Ryan with that seriousness that children sometimes have. Do you like my mommy, Uncle Ryan? Ryan looked at Lauren, who was red and mortified, but he decided to be honest. Yes, I do, Michael. I like your mum very much. She's a very special person. Then why don't you tell her that instead of just staring? We stare a lot at things we like. I stare a lot at my favorite toy car. You stare a lot at my mom, so you like her. In that simple, direct way that only children can be, Michael had exposed the truth that the two adults were trying to hide. Ryan couldn't help but smile. You're very smart, you know that? Much smarter than me. He stood up and looked Lauren in the eyes. He's right. I shouldn't just be staring. I should have the courage to say it. Lauren, I'm in love with you. I know the situation is complicated. I know there are a lot of obstacles, but I can't stand pretending I don't feel what I feel anymore. I think about you every day. I make up excuses to go to the store just to see you. I count the hours until you send me a message. And I know this is crazy. I know it could complicate everything, but I had to tell you. Lauren was silent, the tears now flowing freely. She looked at Michael, who had a smile on his face, and then back at Ryan. Ryan, I feel it too. But I'm scared. Scared of messing everything up. Scared of losing my job. Scared you'll get tired of me and I'll be left with nothing again. Scared of hurting my son if things go wrong. I'm scared too, Ryan admitted. Scared of hurting you. Scared of not being good enough for you. Scared of not knowing how to be a good stepfather to Michael. But you know what I'm more scared of? Letting life pass by and never trying. Of forever wondering what could have been. Lauren took a deep breath. And the job? And the people? They'll talk. They'll say I took advantage of you. Then I'll fire you, Ryan said, and Lauren's eyes widened in shock. Not like that. I'll fire you and hire you in another department where I'm not your direct boss. Or better yet, you can work for another company. I'll help you find something better, with a better salary. And then there won't be this issue of me being your boss. You would do that? Even with the risk of me saying no in the end? I would, because the most important thing to me isn't having you as an employee. It's having you in my life, in whatever way is possible. Michael tugged on his mother's hand. Mom, say yes. Uncle Ryan is nice, and I like him. Can he be my dad? Lauren knelt and hugged her son, now crying without trying to hide it. Ryan joined the hug, wrapping his arms around both of them. There, at the gate of that club with employees watching from distance, the three of them formed a picture that seemed perfect. An unlikely but true family, united not by blood, but by something much stronger, by love. The weeks following that company party were the most intense and transformative in the lives of Ryan, Lauren, and Michael. True to his word, Ryan fulfilled his promise. The day after the event, he spoke with Lauren, and together they decided she would be transferred to another department, working directly with the company's human resources team at a different location. Her salary was maintained, with the promise of future raises based on her performance. This way, Ryan would no longer technically be her direct boss, eliminating some of the complications their relationship could bring. But even with this change, they decided to take things slow. Ryan didn't want to rush anything, didn't want Lauren to feel pressured or uncomfortable. They started with long phone conversations after Michael was asleep. Lauren would talk about her childhood in Georgia, about growing up in the countryside, about the dreams she had as a little girl. Ryan would talk about the pressure of running a company, about how lonely he felt even when surrounded by people, about the deep scars his divorce from Melissa had left. Gradually, those conversations turned into dates, always discreet, always respectful. Ryan would take Lauren and Michael on outings on the weekends. They went to Central Park, the Bronx Zoo, the New York Aquarium. Michael was ecstatic, and with each outing he called Ryan uncle, with more affection and naturalness. For a boy who had never had a father figure, Ryan represented everything he had ever dreamed of. Someone who played with him, taught him things, and looked at his mother with love in his eyes. Lauren, for her part, was living a constant internal dilemma. On one hand, she was falling more and more in love with Ryan. He was attentive, caring, and respectful of her boundaries. He never tried to force anything, never made Lauren feel inferior because of the social difference between them. On the contrary, he treated her as an equal, valued her opinions, and listened to what she had to say. But on the other hand, Lauren couldn't completely shake her fear. Fear that this was temporary, fear of giving herself completely only to be abandoned again. Fear of Michael getting too attached to Ryan and then suffering if things didn't work out. One evening, about a month and a half after that conversation at the club, Ryan invited Lauren to have dinner at his place. It would be the first time she would go to his apartment. Lauren was nervous about the invitation, but Ryan explained that he wanted to cook for her and Michael, wanted them to see where he lived, wanted them to feel comfortable there. On the scheduled Saturday, Ryan went to pick them up from their small room in Jackson Heights. When he arrived at the address Lauren had given him, he was both impressed and saddened. The building was old, poorly maintained, with peeling walls and a narrow staircase that looked dangerous. He went up to the second floor and knocked on the door of apartment 16. Lauren opened the door, and Ryan had to make a conscious effort not to show the shock he felt. The room couldn't have been more than 200 square feet. It had a double bed where Lauren and Michael obviously slept together, a 2-burner stove, a small, noisy refrigerator, a warped particle board wardrobe, and a tiny bathroom that could barely fit one person. But, despite everything, the place was impeccably clean and organized. There were simple but well-kept curtains on the window, a colorful rug on the floor, and Michael's drawings taped to the wall. Lauren had turned that minuscule space into a real home. "Come in." "Sorry about the mess," Lauren said, clearly embarrassed. Ryan entered and looked around with respect. "It's not messy at all, Lauren. It's beautiful. You can see there's a lot of love here." Michael was sitting on the bed, finishing tying his sneakers. "Uncle Ryan, you get to see our room. It's small, but I like it. I sleep with my mom. It's warm." Ryan knelt and hugged the boy. "And there's nothing wrong with that, champ. The important thing is that you're together and you love each other. Size doesn't matter when there's love." During the drive to the Upper East Side, Michael was mesmerized looking out the car window. He had never been in a BMW before, had never left his part of the city. When they arrived at Ryan's building, with its marble lobby, uniformed doorman, and mirrored elevators, the boy's jaw dropped. "Mom, this is just like the buildings on TV." Lauren held her son's hand and shot a nervous glance at Ryan. He understood immediately and took Michael's free hand. "Come with me, champ. I'm going to show you something cool." When the elevator doors opened on the 15th floor and they entered Ryan's apartment, Lauren had to hold herself back from crying. The place was bigger than the entire building where she lived. It had a huge living room with a double-height ceiling, leather sofas, and a giant television on the wall. The kitchen was larger than her entire room, fully equipped with modern appliances she had only seen in stores. There were 3 bedrooms, each with a private bathroom. The view from the balcony showed all of Manhattan lit up, a spectacle of lights that seemed unreal. Michael ran through the living room like a kid in a toy store. "Wow, Mom! Look at the size of this TV! And there's a video game console. Uncle Ryan, you have video games?" "I do, and you can play as much as you want while I make dinner." While Michael settled on the couch with the game controller, Ryan led Lauren to the kitchen. She was visibly uncomfortable, fidgeting with her hands and avoiding direct eye contact. Ryan took her hands in his. "What's going on? You seem off." Lauren sighed. "It's just that I never realized how huge the difference between our lives is, Ryan. When I see you at the store or in the park, you seem normal, approachable. But here, seeing where you live, seeing all this, I realize we really do live in different worlds. You have all this, and I can barely afford a tiny room. How can this possibly work?" Ryan pulled her closer. "Lauren, you want to know the truth? When I walked into your little room today, I didn't see poverty. I saw love. I saw a mother who does the impossible to raise her son with dignity. I saw creativity, care, affection. This apartment has 3,000 square feet, but it was completely empty until you two walked in here today. Now it has life. There's a boy laughing in the living room. There's you here with me in the kitchen. There's something no amount of money can buy. There's happiness. But Ryan, what if people talk? What if they say I'm with you for your money? Let them talk. Anyone who truly knows, you knows what kind of person you are. And for those who don't, it doesn't matter. What matters is what we feel for each other. And I know what I feel for you. I know that when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I think of is you. I know that when I see something interesting on the street, I want to show it to you. I know that when I'm sad or happy, you're the person I want by my side. That's love, Lauren. And real love doesn't care about the size of an apartment or a bank balance." Lauren looked into his eyes and finally allowed herself to feel what she had been trying to suppress for so long. She let the tears fall freely and hugged Ryan tightly. "I love you too, Ryan. I'm scared, but I love you. And it's not for what you have, it's for who you are, for how you treat my son, for how you make me feel special, even though I'm just a simple woman from rural Georgia. You're not just anything, Lauren. You're everything." They stood there, wrapped in each other's arms in the kitchen, until Michael appeared at the door. "Are you guys going to kiss now? Because on TV, when people say stuff like that, they kiss." Ryan and Lauren laughed, and then Ryan looked at her with a gaze that asked for permission. Lauren gave a slight nod, and Ryan leaned in slowly until their lips met in a soft kiss, full of promises and hope. Michael clapped and shouted, "Yay! Now we're going to be a real family." Dinner was one of the happiest nights Ryan had had in years. He cooked spaghetti carbonara, taught Michael how to help in the kitchen, and the three of them ate together at the table on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. Michael told stories from school. Lauren laughed in a way Ryan had never seen before, and he felt a sense of completeness he never imagined possible. After dinner, Michael started to get sleepy. Ryan picked him up and carried him to one of the guest rooms. "You can sleep here, champ. This bed is really comfortable." The boy snuggled into the soft pillows and looked at Ryan with sleepy eyes. "Uncle Ryan, are you going to marry my mom?" Ryan smiled and stroked the boy's hair. "If she'll have me, yes, and if you'll let me too." "I'll let you. I want to have a dad. All the boys at school have dads. I wanted one too. Can you be my dad, Uncle Ryan?" Ryan felt a lump in his throat. "I would love to be your dad, Michael. If your mom agrees, I'll be the best dad I can possibly be for you. And will you live with us? If you want, you can both live here with me. This apartment has plenty of space, and then you can play video games every day." Michael smiled and closed his eyes. "I'm going to dream about that." Ryan sat on the edge of the bed until he was sure Michael was asleep. Then he went back to the living room where Lauren was waiting on the couch. She had heard the entire conversation and was crying silently. "He wants you to be his father," she said when Ryan sat beside her. "And I want that too. But Ryan, this is so fast. We've barely started dating and we're already talking about living together, about getting married." "I know it's fast, but you know what? I've learned these past few months that when you find the right person, you just know. You don't need years of dating to realize it. I know I love you. I know I love Michael. I know I want to spend the rest of my life with you two, and if you need time to be sure, I'll wait. But my certainty is already here." Lauren took a deep breath. "I'm sure too, Ryan. I'm terrified, but I'm sure. I just need you to understand one thing. Michael and I are a package deal. He is my priority. He always will be. If you marry me, you're taking on a son too. A son who isn't yours by blood, but who will need you as if he were. I understand completely, and I want that. I want to be Michael's father. I want to be your husband. I want to build a family with you. And look, I know it won't be easy. There will be challenges, but I'm willing to face all of it by your side." The following weeks were a whirlwind of preparation. Ryan began renovating one of the apartment's bedrooms to be Michael's room. He bought a new bed, a wardrobe, and a desk for him to do his homework. He filled the room with toys but was careful not to overdo it, not to spoil the boy. He wanted Michael to understand the value of things, not to become a spoiled child just because he now had access to more resources. Lauren, in turn, had long conversations with Michael, explaining the changes that were about to happen in their lives. The boy was thrilled with the idea of having a real dad and living in a big apartment, but Lauren made sure to explain that the most important thing wasn't the apartment or the toys, but the love they had for each other. Ryan also had a serious talk with his mother, Matilda. He took Lauren and Michael to meet her one Sunday afternoon. The Italian matriarch welcomed the three of them with a traditional Italian lunch, braciole and cannolis for dessert. She carefully observed the interaction between Ryan and Lauren and between Ryan and Michael. At the end of the afternoon, when Lauren took Michael to the bathroom, she pulled her son aside. "This one is a real woman, my son, not like that Melissa who only thought about shopping and parties. This one has substance, character, and the boy is a sweetheart. You will be a good father to him." "Thanks, Mom. I need your blessing." "You've always had my blessing, my son. Just don't take too long to bring me some real Italian-American grandchildren." Ryan laughed and hugged his mother. Every time Matilda met a new girlfriend, she made the same joke about grandchildren. But this time, for the first time, Ryan could actually imagine himself having children. With Lauren, expanding their family. November turned into December, and New York began to prepare for Christmas. Stores put up holiday decorations, malls erected enormous trees, and the streets were adorned with colorful lights. It was Michael's favorite time of year, and he couldn't stop talking about the approaching holiday. Ryan had an idea. He wanted to make this Christmas unforgettable for Lauren and Michael. He wanted to make the family they were building official. And so, one afternoon in mid-December, he went to a traditional jeweler in the Diamond District and bought two very special gifts. On December 23rd, Ryan invited Lauren and Michael to spend Christmas with him at his apartment. Lauren hesitated because she had planned to spend Christmas with her friends from the old diner, but Ryan insisted so much that she eventually gave in. Michael was over the moon with the idea of spending Christmas at Uncle Ryan's big apartment. On Christmas Eve, Ryan decorated the entire apartment. He bought a 7-foot Christmas tree and let Michael decorate it however he wanted. The boy spent the whole afternoon putting on ornaments, colorful balls, and twinkling lights. The result was a bit lopsided and disorganized, but it was the most beautiful tree Ryan had ever seen because it was made with love. That evening, after dinner, the three of them sat on the couch in front of the lit tree. Michael was almost asleep, exhausted from all the excitement. Ryan looked at Lauren and decided it was time. "Michael, champ, wake up for a second. I have something to tell you." The boy opened his sleepy eyes. "What is it, Uncle Ryan?" Ryan took a small box from his pocket and knelt in front of Michael. "You know that talk we had the other day? About me being your dad? I wanted to know if you still want that, if you'll accept me as your father." Michael's eyes widened, all sleepiness instantly vanishing. "I do, Uncle Ryan, I really do." Ryan opened the box, and inside was a silver chain with an anchor pendant. The jeweler had explained that the anchor represented stability, security, a safe harbor. It was exactly what Ryan wanted to be for Michael. "Then I want to give you this. It's a symbol that I'll always be here for you. I'll always be your safe harbor. Do you accept?" Michael took the chain with trembling little hands and let Ryan place it around his neck. Then he threw himself into Ryan's arms in a tight hug. "Thank you, Dad. Can I call you Dad now?" Ryan held the boy tightly, feeling tears stream down his face. "Yes, son. You can always call me Dad." Lauren was crying uncontrollably, covering her mouth with her hands to muffle her sobs. This scene was more than she had ever dreamed of for her son. To see Michael finally have a father, to see this wonderful man choose to love her son as his own, was more than her heart could bear. When Michael finally let go of Ryan, the man turned to Lauren. Still on one knee, he took another box from his pocket. "Lauren Fisher, you came into my life when I needed it most. You showed me what truly matters. You taught me that real love has nothing to do with money or status. You gave me a family. You gave me a son. You gave me hope. And now I want to give you something in return. I want to give you my last name, my life, my eternal love. Will you marry me?" He opened the box, and inside was a simple but beautiful engagement ring with a small diamond that sparkled under the Christmas tree lights. Lauren couldn't speak, just nodded her head desperately. "Yes," as the tears fell non-stop. Ryan placed the ring on her finger and pulled her into a long, passionate kiss. "Mommy's getting married," Michael shouted, jumping on the couch. "We're going to be a real family. I'm going to have a dad, and Mommy's going to have a husband, and we're all going to live together." The three of them hugged there on the couch with the Christmas tree twinkling in the background and the city of New York shining outside the window. It was a simple but perfect scene. An unlikely family formed not by blood ties but by something much stronger, by choice, by love, by respect, by partnership. Ryan thought about how his life had changed since that afternoon in the supermarket, how a simple act of kindness had blossomed into something so much bigger, how watching a little boy return a box of cookies to a shelf had opened his heart to true love. He had walked into that supermarket a rich but empty man, and he had walked out with the greatest wealth anyone could have: a family. Lauren thought of all the hardships she had faced, all the times she had thought of giving up, all the nights she had cried alone, wondering if she could give Michael the life he deserved. And now she looked around and saw that she had. Not in the way she had imagined, but in a way that was even better, because she had found not only financial security, but also love, partnership, and companionship. She had found someone who loved her, not despite her imperfections, but because of them. And Michael, that little 6-year-old boy, who had learned too early about deprivation and sacrifice, now slept peacefully in his father's arms, clutching his anchor necklace, a smile on his face. He finally had what every child deserves: a family that loved him, a home that was safe, and the certainty that he would never be alone again. On that Christmas night, as New York slept outside, 3 hearts beat as one in that Upper East Side apartment. 3 lives that had crossed by chance but were united by choice. 3 souls that found in each other what they had been searching for so long. Lauren found security and love. Michael found a father, and Ryan found purpose and family. And when the clock struck midnight and Christmas finally arrived, they opened the presents Ryan had placed under the tree. For Michael, a remote-control car he had seen in a store window and mentioned was cool. For Lauren, a delicate gold chain with a heart-shaped pendant. Inside the heart, engraved in tiny letters, were the words, "My family, my wealth." Because that's exactly what they were to Ryan. His true wealth, not the supermarkets, not the apartment, not the money in the bank, but this strong, dignified woman who had won his heart with her courage. This sweet, intelligent boy who had called him Dad and made his heart overflow with love. They were the wealth he had been searching for his whole life without knowing it. And Lauren, looking at the ring on her finger, at her son sleeping in Ryan's arms, at the life that had been built after so much suffering, finally understood something. That sometimes life takes everything from us so it can give us exactly what we need. That sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to be truly lifted up. That sometimes the greatest blessings come disguised as coincidences in a supermarket aisle. She had gone to that supermarket that afternoon just to buy rice and beans. She had left with so much more. She had left with hope, with a second chance, with a future. And now, months later, she had a complete family, a real home, and a love she didn't even know could exist. In the early hours of Christmas morning, with Michael sleeping between them on the couch, Ryan and Lauren stayed awake talking about the future, about the wedding they planned to have at City Hall in a few months, no big party, just in the presence of family and close friends, about the possibility of having more children in the future, siblings for Michael, about enrolling Michael in a private school where he could have more opportunities, about Lauren taking college courses if she wanted to, about traveling to Georgia for vacation so Michael could see where his mother was born. They were simple plans, but full of meaning. Plans of people who believe in tomorrow, of people who had built something solid and true on a foundation of mutual love and respect. And as they made these plans, with the lights of the Christmas tree reflecting on their faces, they were both absolutely certain of one thing, that they had found in each other the true meaning of life. It wasn't in material things, not in professional success, not in a bank account. It was right there on that couch, in that embrace, in that moment. It was in the family they had chosen to form together. And as the sun began to rise over New York that Christmas morning, illuminating the city with its first golden rays, Ryan looked out the window and smiled. It was a new day, a new beginning, a new life. And he was no longer alone. He had a woman by his side who truly loved him. He had a son who proudly called him Dad. He had a family that was his true wealth. And deep in his heart, Ryan silently gave thanks for having walked into that supermarket that afternoon, for paying attention, for having the courage to help, for allowing his heart to open to love. Because sometimes all we need is one small act of kindness to completely change the course of our lives. And he had taken that step, and now he was reaping the rewards in ways he never imagined possible. Lauren, feeling Ryan's gaze on her, opened her eyes and smiled. "Good morning, future husband. Good morning, future wife. Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas, my love. The best Christmas of my life." And as Michael still slept peacefully between them, Ryan and Lauren sealed that moment with a soft kiss full of promises. Promises of eternal love, of companionship, of family, of a life built together. Promises they knew they would keep, because their love was not based on illusions or fantasies. It was a real love tested by life, strengthened by difficulties, and for that very reason, unbreakable. And so, in that apartment on the Upper East Side, on a Christmas morning in New York City, 3 lives brought together by fate definitively became a family. A family that proved that true love knows no social barriers, doesn't care about financial differences, and doesn't mind where you came from. True love only cares about who you are, the size of your heart, and your capacity to love and be loved. And that love, born in a supermarket aisle between a box of cookies and an act of kindness, had turned into the most beautiful love story that City had ever seen. A story that proved that miracles happen every day to ordinary people in ordinary places. You just have to have your eyes open to see, your heart open to feel, and the courage to act.